Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again for another fragrance rotation. These are the 7 fragrances that I wore last week, so stay tuned for that. And if you like top 10 lists, fragrance reviews, cologne comparisons, and first impressions, hit that subscribe button for more great content. So last week, I decided to make it a bit of a different week, I guess, because although it's winter, I guess I don't go out as much anymore, as I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing this. And you know what? I decided to make it a week that was mostly freshies. I mean, you don't have to wear heavier fragrances in the winter. I find it's a lot easier to get away with it and for them to be enjoyable for not only you, but people around you. So I do tend to, the one thing I tend to think about is what season it is when I'm wearing fragrances. But I'm also inside a lot, so it doesn't make too big of a difference. And I was feeling like I missed freshies. So I decided to go with some of my collection. Not the whole week was fresh, but there were a lot of fresh fragrances. And so the first thing that I wore last week, Bleu de Chanel, Parfum. This is the Parfum. Now, this, I do really like this one. This is my favorite of the Bleu de Chanels. I find it's a lot more smooth. So the first one I really tried out was the EDP, which I really liked in the air. It has nice sillage, but it is one of those ones where, especially if you smell it up close, it burns your nostrils, especially if it's up close. So it does have a bit of an unpleasant vibe. This one, on the other hand, it doesn't have that. Now, it doesn't project for as long. It is a little bit closer to the skin, and it is definitely more of a skin scent, although it does last a long time. It is one that sits a lot closer to the skin. It does have a little bit of a scent trail, a little bit of that sillage, but it's very smooth. So I can smell this right up against my skin, and it still smells really beautiful. There is a little bit of I think an incensey vibe in this one that makes it a little bit more dark, a little bit more masculine, and I really enjoy this one. This one, I first went to the Chanel store to try this out when it was first released, and it was really one that hit the spot practically. It did actually, I'll admit it, it practically brought me to tears. Now, true, I've smelled a lot of things since then. But this one, when I do come back to it, I still really, really enjoy it. And it's a great versatile fragrance that honestly a lot of people just enjoy. And a lot of people around you are going to enjoy. So, easy to wear, easy choice. Next, I went with Aqua de Joe Profumo. Now, a lot of people say this is a year-round fragrance. And I can see that. It's pretty strong. At least on me, it projects pretty well. It has a good longevity, and there's something about the patchouli incense that definitely makes it slightly more dark and masculine, and something that's easier to wear in the fall and winter. And I think it does perform well enough. And I mean, if I was to put this in a season, I would say fall-winter, because if I was going to pick an Aqua de Joe for spring-summer, it would be Profondo, which I really also enjoy. But this one is a nice, salty fragrance. It's funny because if anybody else watches Seinfeld, there's this episode where Kramer comes up with this idea to make a cologne that smells like the beach. And Calvin Klein ends up stealing the idea, and it becomes a whole thing. But I actually think that this fragrance, not Profumo, but the original Aqua de Joe, is the idea that Seinfeld got to make that scene. That's just my opinion. But it does have this nice salty sea breeze kind of a vibe that I do actually really, really like about it. It smells nice. Does remind me, of course, of the beach. Next one, Bulgari Man, and this is Wood Neroli. This is one that I actually really enjoy. So if you like 4711 Neroli Portofino, it is definitely that kind of fragrance, and I think it's a lot cheaper. I got this for $42, I think, and there's a 60 ml or something like that. Yeah, it's a 60 ml, and I think that's a really good price. So you can find this one on discounters. You can get testers of it, and you can get it for a very reasonable price. Performance in this one is quite good. So the only thing that I would complain about this one, although it's a very nice, fresh, uplifting Neroli Portofino kind of a fragrance, I also find that this one does have a little bit of a generic quality when it gets deeper into the dry down. So especially at the 6+ hour mark, I do find that I think there's cedarwood in this. It does come off a little generic and not so good, but it does perform well. It does smell really, really nice, for 4 or 5 hours. And, I enjoy it for that. and the price is right. So if you do, again, if you like those kinds of fragrances, I would say get your nose on this one. It's worth the price, and I think it performs better than something like Neroli Portofino as well. So next, and this was the last freshie, or really fresh fragrance for the week, and that was Galloway. So this one is, I actually find this is one that a lot of people don't like, and sometimes I can see why. So I do like this one because it's a clean, it comes off very much like clean water in the opening. It has this really nice bergamot vibe. There is iris in this, although it doesn't have that powdery or lipsticky vibe at all. And it does come off very clean, and then it has a nice musk, and there's pepper in it. And to me, the thing that sometimes makes this one hard is that the pepper can be very strong at times. And the pepper, I find that the pepper occasionally, for me even, is a little overbearing. But that's not every time I wear it. It's just, I guess, depending on my mood and how I feel. But there is a little bit of pepperiness. The pepperiness can either be something that to you adds a nice intrigue, in my case, is what I usually find, or that it is occasionally overbearing. But I do really like it, and it performs quite spectacularly for a fresh fragrance. It is fairly easy to get along with as far as other people as well, so I do think it's one that a lot of people will enjoy. And it is one that doesn't get a lot of talk or love from the Parfums de Marly house, so I think it's one that I like to talk about for that reason. And yeah, I do like this one. I also like the pearly white bottle. It is... there's something about the pearl, that sort of pearl, that just has a sort of classy, elegant kind of a look. Next one. Probably no surprise to anyone. Spice Bomb Extreme. Now, the first thing I'll say is that this is a 2018 bottle, I believe, that I bought. I bought it in 2018. It might have been a little bit older. I really don't know. But it performs really, really well. And I've heard a lot of people complain about the performance of Spice Bomb, so I'm really starting to think that they reformulated it, because this is pretty strong, long-lasting. It's pretty beast mode. But it is one that is really, really well done. It opens very, very peppery, you know, and it has these sort of sweet vanillic undertones. And I do find that it gets a bit of a Coca-Cola vibe. I think something about maybe the spices and the vanilla really give me that kind of Coca-Cola gummy vibe in the mid for a little while, which I do find quite addictive. And then it dries down into a very, very vanilla-y fragrance. And the pepper is very, very toned down, and it's not quite so spicy. I will say I tried Rehab, and Rehab is amazing. So Rehab is just better in every single way, in my personal opinion. The spice is more complex. Sometimes I find the vanilla to be a little bit heavy-handed in this one, which it's not in Rehab. But this one is much cheaper, and it's really, really good. And I kind of waffle on which one's better, this one or the original Spice Bomb. And I think that it's possible, if you really like the DNA, that it would be possible to own both. I've certainly thought about getting the original, because there are times when, you know, it's not quite as overbearingly sweet. And it has a little bit better balance in that regard. Whereas this one is really amped up. And I don't think that pepper is the main pepperiness in the original, where this one is very peppery in the opening. Anyways, this is a really nice fragrance. I do enjoy it, but I find it's one that I wear more occasionally. I don't wear it all the time. I am trying to, like I said, make more use of the fragrances that I do have, and tighten my collection. And most probably this will be one that I keep if I do end up selling anything. But yeah, it's just not an everyday reach for me. Next one, almost at the end of the week, and that's Tom Ford's Ombre Leather. So this, I always say this is the best entry-level leather fragrance. So for somebody who's not really into leather, wants to really experience a leather-dominant fragrance, and wants something that's, or at least probably wants the easiest to like out of those fragrances, this is definitely going to be one of them. There are other really nice leather-forward fragrances, but this is really leathery, but still, it's about as mass appealing as I think a leather fragrance can be. And you know, I love wearing this when I have my leather jacket on. And it has this beautiful like suede with a like sweet vibe, and it becomes I think a little bit more supple as it dries down. Now I sometimes get a little bit of a powdery vibe in the dry down, which I'm not a huge fan of, but fortunately it's certainly not always there. But That's the one thing I guess I would complain if I was going to complain about this. But otherwise, it has good lasting power. Smells really, really good. I don't think it's overbearing as a fragrance. So some of them, some fragrances project too much for their own good, in my opinion. And if I'm going to list something, I want to say Annie is one of those fragrances. It's not the case with this fragrance. It's not overbearing. You can spray it a little bit and not worry about it being way too much. And it does have this really nice, really leather dominant accord. Very, very nice. And the next one is a bit of a fresh fragrance. So this kind of fit into the theme of the week. But it is more of a fall winter fragrance for sure, and that is Creed Viking. Now, this is one reason, at least I realized when I wore this fragrance, this is one reason why I do also like having fragrances that I kind of just wear in certain seasons. Because I find a lot of times if I wear a fragrance, 3 or 4 times in a week, I get tired of it. And when I first got this, I actually wore it 3 times that week, and then I took a little break from it. But, sometimes I find that you get tired of a fragrance, but for me personally, if I have something I wear in the fall and the winter only, then I have the whole spring, summer to miss it. And then when I come back to it, really enjoy it. So it is nice, I guess, to have a little bit of a break. Maybe that's part of my fickle nature, as it were. I do tend to be a little bit that way with fragrance. But I really like this one. Very fresh in the opening. It is actually very, very fresh. Barbershoppy, very spicy. There's like a mint spearmint vibe in there that's also quite strong. And I think it's a very nice modern take on that kind of barbershop DNA. It also has rose in it, which becomes a lot more prominent in the dry down. And it's done in such a way that it's not overbearing. It still maintains itself as a very masculine type of fragrance. And I do like this one. To me, this along with Arolfa are the best offerings from Creed. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't tried every single Creed, but I really, really like those two, and glad I did get a bottle of this. But as I always have to say, this is preposterous retail. I bought this at Costco when they had it. I was very lucky, and this is $160, which I think is a fair price for what it is, for how long it lasts, and all that, the performance, the quality, all that kind of thing. Anyways, those are the fragrances I wore last week. Leave a comment down below. What did you wear last week, or what was your favorite fragrance you wore last week? And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.